Hey everybody, Steve here, and I've got some information for college students about the kind of help that the stimulus bill offers to them. Let me translate that for college students. I'm finna drop some top knowledge on you so you'll be woke about getting that stimulus bread. This is straight fire Gucci. Okay, so in this video, I am going to talk about 3 ways that the CARE Act and the stimulus package does make some attempt to help college students. Coming right up. All right, so let me dive right in. I'm going to discuss 3 ways that the CARE Act, which was passed at the end of March as a broad-brushed, sweeping act to try to help Americans affected by the coronavirus quarantine. And the first couple I'm going to discuss are going to be about getting money. All right, first, I'm going to tell you this. Check with your college or university about emergency coronavirus grants. Now, let me explain. The CARES Act designated about $13 billion to colleges and universities, public and private, profit and nonprofit, to assist with 2 things. One was the money was to help colleges and universities make the transition to an all-online model because you were going to have to go online only. But the other thing, and this is what you came here to hear, the CARES Act requires the university to pass along 50% of what it got directly to its students. All right, you can look up if your college or university got any of those funds in searchable databases that I'm providing the links to down below. One of them is from Inside Higher Ed and the other one is from the Chronicle of Higher Ed. So if you're not able to get into one, maybe you can get into the other. I'm going to provide both links below down in the description. You just go to the search window, type in your college or university's name, and see if it comes up with a number. It's going to have 2 columns. The first one is the total amount, and the other one is 50% of that amount that has to be passed along directly to students. Thing is that colleges and universities are struggling with knowing how to pass those along, and the CARES Act did not dictate any particular thing that they had to do. So they're trying a few different things. Let me tell you what I know about. First, a few of them are just going to give a straight dollar amount to each student. They're going to take the total number of dollars that they received. They have to cut that in half and give that 50% directly to students, and they're just going to divide that by the number of students they had enrolled in the spring semester, and they're going to pass along some straight dollar amount for that. The problem with that is that it usually results in a pretty small amount being given to each student, and it doesn't take into account students with significantly higher needs, maybe who don't get any parental support or who had to work full-time to pay for college or almost full-time but they got laid off, maybe even that were depending on those jobs for benefits and those kinds of things. You can log on to your financial account right now for your college or university and see if you've received a refund since around the end of March 29th, 30th, or the 1st of April. If you did get a refund, it was probably due to that money. Secondly, some schools are giving refunds for fees, dorms, meal plans, and things like that, prorated for the number of weeks that students weren't able to take advantage of those because they were forced to stop going to school for the quarantine. Just doing that refund could exhaust all of that 50%. It adds up very, very quickly if you refund thousands of students 6 to 8 weeks of dormitory and food plan money and things like that and fees. Again, you can log on to your financial account page for your university, get into your account and see if you've received a refund anytime since about March 29th. If you have, it was probably due to something like that. Hopefully you got an email telling you what that was about. Thirdly, what I've seen is that some schools are beginning to offer what's called coronavirus or COVID-19 emergency grants. So they're beginning to offer scholarships and grants to students who were affected by the coronavirus. So some people were laid off, some students became sick themselves, and that created a lot of problems, or they had to care for a sick loved one, or maybe even worse, experience some kind of loss. Maybe a student had to buy a laptop or a tablet that they didn't have to own before, or they had to get some internet equipment, or they had to subscribe to an internet service that they didn't have to before. And those are unpredictable expenses for them. They weren't able to see that they were going to need those. And so those are new. They were unnecessary prior to having to go home and do all their studies online. So if you have good records and you can justify that you needed to buy those things, perhaps you can qualify for some of those emergency student relief funds or corona relief funds. So what you can do generally is log on to your university's financial aid website, go to that front page, and pretty much I think you should be able to find something called COVID-19 emergency aid or coronavirus emergency aid or something like that, if that's the way that they're choosing to get this 50% of the money they got directly to students. Okay, so I told you there were going to be three ways, and the first way was to go directly to your university and see if this emergency coronavirus relief grant or relief fund is available to you where you go, or how they maybe have given you a refund. The second way I want to discuss is if you aren't claimed by anybody as a dependent, you likely qualify for that IRS stimulus check, $1,200, unless you made over $75,000 a year, which would be pretty impressive as a college student. So even if you're under 24 years of age, but your parents maybe don't file tax returns because they don't make over $12,000, or they have some other kind of circumstance, but you are a U.S. citizen full-time and you aren't claimed as any kind of a dependent, you can go to the irs.gov website, I'll put the link down below, and enter your information. Maybe you've been filing your own taxes for 2018, 2019, and you haven't been claimed as a dependent by anybody for whatever reason, then you might not need to do anything. That money might be on its way. You can check your status on the irs.gov website, or you can enter your routing number and account number for a checking account on the irs.gov website for them to deposit that into, if in fact you might qualify. So in other words, a lot of college students heard that just because they're college students, they didn't qualify for this stimulus money, but that simply isn't the case if you just aren't claimed by anybody as a dependent. So for whatever reason, perhaps you are not in a dependent status with parents or someone like that. Whatever the case may be, and however that might have happened, if you're not dependent on someone else's tax return, then you likely qualify for that IRS stimulus check, that $1,200. Also, if you're disabled or you're a veteran or you're receiving SSI for any reason, then you need to go to the irs.gov website and read the FAQ sheet, the frequently asked questions sheet. I'll put the link to that right down below. Okay, so the third way that I want to discuss is actually a benefit. It's not cash offered to you, but it's a benefit offered to you right now, and that is that your student loan payments are going to be deferred, automatically deferred, for 6 months. You don't have to do anything through your student loan provider. It doesn't hurt if you want to check with them. By this federal act, they are supposed to suspend all payments. So even if you decided to opt in to automatically have those debited, those are supposed to be suspended from March 30th through September 30th. In fact, the act goes on to say that if, in fact, any of that money had been automatically taken out, you are due a refund of that money between March 30th and September 30th. Now, I have a link down below to the government website talking about student financial aid. They're not going to charge you interest on those loans during that 6 months either. So this could be very valuable to you. If you're struggling right now, you don't have to make student loan payments. And also the burden of interest on you, if you're currently enrolled in school, the burden of interest on you isn't growing either. So your account's not going to get any bigger, other than if you're going to take some summer classes, then obviously that money's going to get added on. Now, if you can afford to make them, then you may want to keep making them. But you have to call your loan service provider and tell them that you are voluntarily opting out of suspending those payments. So then they'll start them back up again and they'll be automatically debited to them. Or you can just manually go in and make the payment if you want to, but you're not required to from March 30th. Technically, it's March 13th to September 30th. Now, just note something. Those payments aren't going away. In other words, the federal government isn't paying those payments for you and then subtracting that payment amount off your student loan. Your student loan size isn't going to change. You still owe that money. They're just deferring the payment 6 months. So they're going to tack it on to the end of your what would have normally been your payoff schedule. They're just not charging you interest. Your account isn't growing any during this time. Okay? So that could be helpful for a lot of people. I know student loan payments can become just obtrusive. They can become formidable. I'm going to get on thesaurus right now and look up a word for obtrusive. It means noticeable or prominent in an unwelcome or intrusive way. Importunate. How about that? Use that in Scrabble. Worth 80 points if it crosses a pinky space. Projecting. Protruding. Bulging. Prognathous. 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 Noticeable. Prominent. It means you know they're there. It's like sleeping in a tent with a mosquito. Okay, so those are 3 ways you can get help. But let me add one more thing. As a university professor myself, I'm an associate professor of entrepreneurship and small business management and strategic management in a business school at a large university. If you're a college student who's having a difficult time because of the effects of coronavirus, let me encourage you to contact your Office of Student Financial Aid on your campus. A lot of them are kind of closed down personally, but they're still working digitally. So use those contact information numbers, find that contact information, and email your financial counselor. Sometimes they're assigned by last name or something like that, and email them, and don't be too proud to tell them that you need assistance during this time, and explain to them why. It makes perfect sense. They don't want you to drop out. It's bad for the school. It creates all kinds of problems. They want to retain you. They want to successfully get you to graduation. That's part of the funding formula for many schools. So tell them if you need help. All right. And lastly, if you're having a difficult time coping, let me encourage you to contact your college or university's counseling center and pursue getting some virtual assistance, virtual counseling at this time. It's important that you meet with somebody to discuss your problems. You might be grieving the loss of a loved one or the anticipated loss of a loved one at this time. You might be sick yourself. Maybe you're worried about parents or one of your parents who's been laid off and you've seen the effects of that, or a whole host of other problems. Listen, it's real and it's okay to contact them, and you should. Don't hesitate. Do it right now. Go ahead and log on and tell them you need somebody to talk to. All right, hey, thanks for watching. I'm really, really humbled by the support this channel's been getting over the last couple of weeks. This is a channel that's offering step-by-step help with problems, mostly with small business and entrepreneurship. That's where I'd like it to go. I teach it, and I do it myself. All right, so if that was a dime, just smash that like and subscribe button, and let me be part of your fam. Sorry, not sorry.